Did you know that Missouri is often called boring, flat, forgettable, and culturally irrelevant? That it has no real natural wonders, no dark history, and nothing truly unique about it? People drive through it, fly over it, dismiss it without a second thought. And honestly, that's exactly what Missouri wants you to do. Because almost everything you've heard about Missouri is wrong. Behind the jokes and stereotypes is a state packed with misunderstood history, twisted myths, and facts that sound real but completely fall apart under scrutiny. Missouri isn't hiding because it has nothing to show. It's hiding because what it has to show makes people uncomfortable. Today you'll discover 35 insane facts about Missouri that are not true. And by the end of this video, you'll never see the so-called show-me state the same way again. Let's begin. 35. Missouri is completely flat. You will hear this a lot, that Missouri is just endless farmland stretching horizon to horizon, flat, featureless, forgettable. That is false. Missouri contains the Ozark Plateau, one of the oldest mountain regions in North America. These are not young, jagged peaks like the Rockies. They are ancient, eroded highlands carved by hundreds of millions of years of water, rivers, time, and collapse caves. The Ozarks predate most mountain ranges people consider real. They were standing before the Appalachians finished forming. And the terrain is not gentle, rolling hills either. The Ozarks feature steep bluffs, dense forests, hidden valleys, and some of the most rugged terrain east of the Rockies. Calling Missouri flat is like calling the Grand Canyon a ditch. It only works if you have never actually been there, and most people making this claim have not. Missouri has no natural wonders. People assume all the famous natural landmarks are out west, the canyons, the geysers, the dramatic coastlines. Missouri, they say, is just farmland and highways. But Missouri has more than 6,000 documented caves, more than almost any other state in the United States. Entire underground rivers flow beneath its surface, carving out cathedral-sized chambers that most residents do not even know exist. Some caves stretch for miles. Others contain formations thousands of years old. A few have never been fully mapped. Missouri earned the nickname the Cave State long before tourism boards started marketing it. And yet, when people think of natural wonders, they skip right over it. Some of Missouri's most dramatic landscapes exist where people never look, straight down. 33. The Mississippi River defines Missouri's culture. This sounds logical, but it's misleading. Yes, the Mississippi River forms Missouri's eastern border. Yes, it shaped trade and transportation. But reducing Missouri's identity to the Mississippi ignores the other force that literally built the state, the Missouri River. The Missouri River is one of the longest rivers in North America. It carved the northern half of the state, flooded towns, shifted borders, and powered economies long before railroads existed. Entire cities exist where they do because the Missouri River decided to bend. Farmland flourished or flooded based on its mood. Missouri is not just river adjacent. It was river engineered, and the river that did most of the engineering shares its name. Here is what school textbooks simplify. Missouri stayed in the Union during the Civil War. Here is what actually happened. Missouri did not cleanly belong to either side. During the Civil War, Missouri had two competing governments, one Union-aligned, one Confederate-aligned. Both claimed legitimacy. Both had supporters willing to kill for their cause. Neighbor fought neighbor. Families split loyalties. Guerrilla warfare turned the state into a bloodbath that did not follow battle lines. Missouri was not neutral. It was not safely Union. It was fractured, and the scars of that fracture shaped its politics for generations. 31. St. Louis is one of the most dangerous cities in America. This statistic gets repeated constantly. It is technically accurate, but it is also deeply misleading. Crime rankings often use city limits instead of metropolitan areas. This skews comparisons dramatically. St. Louis's city borders were frozen in the 1870s when the city separated from St. Louis County. Unlike cities such as Indianapolis or Jacksonville that expanded outward and absorbed suburbs, St. Louis stayed small on paper. So when crime rates are calculated per capita using only the city proper, St. Louis looks far worse than cities with larger boundaries that dilute their numbers. The crime is real. The danger in certain areas is real. But the comparison to other cities is statistically dishonest, and most rankings never explain why. If you are enjoying breaking apart myths people accept without question, make sure you subscribe. Hard truth, untold, exists to challenge what sounds true but is not. Most channels repeat what is easy. We dig into what is accurate. Hit subscribe and let's keep going. People love putting states in boxes. Missouri gets labeled Southern because of its Civil War history and rural accents. But Missouri is not Southern. It is not Northern. It is not purely Midwestern either. It is a cultural fault line. Northern Missouri reflects Midwest farming culture, German and Scandinavian influences, agricultural rhythms, and practical stoicism. Southern Missouri mirrors Appalachian traditions, Scots-Irish heritage, folk music, and deep-rooted independence. Meanwhile, cities like St. Louis and Kansas City developed distinct industrial and immigrant identities shaped by rivers, railroads, and waves of migration. Missouri does not fit a single cultural box, and that is exactly why it confuses people who need neat categories. 29th, Kansas City is actually in Kansas. This myth refuses to die, no matter how many times it is corrected. Kansas City, Missouri existed first. It was founded in the 1830s as a river trading post, and it grew into a major city. Kansas City, Kansas came later, and borrowed the name from its neighbor across the state line. The confusion is not geographical. It is historical theft dressed up as a trivia question. Missouri built Kansas City. Kansas just named a suburb after it. Section 28. Missouri has no earthquakes. This is dangerously wrong. The New Madrid seismic zone in southeastern Missouri produced the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded in the continental United States, a series of massive quakes in 1811 and 1812, so strong they made the Mississippi River briefly flow backward. Church bells rang in Boston from the shaking. New lakes formed overnight. The land itself liquefied in places. Seismologists warn that another major quake along the New Madrid Fault is not a question of if, but when. And yet most people, including many Missourians, have no idea they live in an active seismic zone. Missouri is not earthquake-free. It is earthquake-forgotten, and that ignorance could cost lives. The Gateway Arch is just a tourist gimmick. People see the arch and think roadside attraction. Photo op, stainless steel selfie background. But the Gateway Arch isn't decorative. It marks the literal starting point of westward expansion, the place where wagon trains, fur traders, and settlers launched into territory that wasn't theirs. It is a monument to manifest destiny, which sounds noble until you remember what manifest destiny actually meant. The systematic displacement and destruction of indigenous peoples, the theft of Mexican territory, and one of the most aggressive land grabs in human history. The arch isn't just steel, it is a 630-foot monument to conquest, and it is strange how rarely that gets mentioned on the tour. 26. Missouri was never a slave state hotspot. Missouri allowed slavery. That much is in the textbooks. But people assume slavery in Missouri looked like plantation slavery in the Deep South, with cotton fields, large agricultural operations, and rural isolation. Missouri's slavery was different. It was urban, industrial, and river-based. Enslaved people in Missouri built docks, worked warehouses, laid rail infrastructure, and powered the trade networks that made St. Louis wealthy. They worked in homes, factories, and shipping yards. Missouri's slavery history is quieter than Mississippi's or Alabama's, but that does not make it smaller. It just makes it easier to overlook. Many people call the Ozarks hillbilly country. That stereotype erases an entire culture and replaces it with a punchline. The Ozarks developed in geographic isolation. That isolation created distinct dialects, folk medicine traditions, music styles, and survival knowledge that predate many American institutions people consider advanced. Ozark communities were not backward. They were self-sufficient in ways modern society has forgotten how to be. They built lives without infrastructure, government support, or outside supply chains. What people mock as hillbilly was often adaptation, resilience, and ingenuity born from necessity. The Ozarks are not a joke. They are a survival story people stopped respecting once they no longer needed to survive. Missouri's land was home to indigenous peoples for thousands of years before Europeans arrived. After Europeans arrived, Missouri became something else. It became a forced migration corridor. Tribes including the Osage and Missouria were pushed through, pushed out, or absorbed into removal policies. Later, tribes from the eastern United States passed through Missouri on forced marches westward during the Trail of Tears. Missouri wasn't just a state. It was a throughway for ethnic cleansing dressed up as policy. The land remembers what happened here, even when textbooks do not. 23rd, Missouri is politically predictable. Missouri used to be the ultimate political bellwether. For decades, it predicted presidential election outcomes with eerie accuracy. As Missouri goes, so goes the nation. Then stopped. Missouri's shift from swing state to reliably red wasn't natural or inevitable. It followed demographic changes, deindustrialization, rural consolidation, and the hollowing out of union influence in cities. States don't just turn, they are pushed. Missouri's political transformation is a case study in how economic collapse reshapes political identity. 22. Mark Twain was just a funny writer. People remember Mark Twain for humor, the wit, the one-liners, and the quotable observations. But Twain was not humor first. He was critique first. His Missouri upbringing exposed him to hypocrisy, racism, violence, and moral contradiction at every level of society. His writing did not just make people laugh, it made them uncomfortable while they laughed. The jokes were delivery vehicles for harder truths about America that readers might have rejected if delivered straight. Missouri did not just raise Twain, it sharpened him into one of America's most effective social critics, and the sharpening was not gentle. 21st, Missouri has no unique food culture. Toasted ravioli, gooey butter cake, St. Louis-style pizza with Provel cheese, Kansas City barbecue that rivals any region in America. You might love these foods, you might hate them, but they exist because Missouri developed isolated food ecosystems shaped by immigrant communities, local ingredients, and regional stubbornness. Missouri did not copy other food cultures. It created its own in the gaps between influences: Italian immigrants in St. Louis, German settlers across the state, barbecue traditions that evolved independently from Texas and the Carolinas. Missouri's food is not famous because Missouri does not brag, but it is absolutely distinct. 20. Missouri is forgettable. Missouri doesn't market itself well. It doesn't produce flashy tourism campaigns. It doesn't beg for attention or trend on social media. And that's exactly why its myths survive unchallenged. Missouri's quietness isn't emptiness, it's indifference to outside validation. The state knows what it is. It just doesn't feel the need to convince anyone. But that silence creates a vacuum, and vacuums fill with assumptions. People who never visit decide what Missouri is based on jokes and stereotypes, and Missouri doesn't bother correcting them. Forgettable? No. Unbothered? Absolutely. The state motto: "Show me" means Missourians are skeptical. People assume "show me" reflects stubbornness or doubt. Missourians will not believe something until you prove it. That's close, but it misses the origin. Show me reflects earned trust. Missouri's history is filled with land fraud, broken deals, overpromised schemes, and scams that targeted settlers heading west. People learned the hard way that promises meant nothing without proof. The motto is not about being difficult. It is about refusing to be fooled again. Missouri culture values proof over promises, and that trait was shaped by generations of watching people get burned by words without substance. Missouri doesn't look like Silicon Valley. It doesn't produce viral startups or tech billionaires, but innovation doesn't always wear that branding. Missouri pioneered river navigation engineering that made continental trade possible. It became an early hub for aviation manufacturing. McDonnell Douglas built planes in St. Louis for decades. Logistics infrastructure that moves goods across America was designed and optimized in Missouri. Innovation here looks like bridges, barges, planes, and supply chains, not apps. It's less glamorous, but arguably more foundational to how the modern economy actually functions. 17. Missouri is safe from climate extremes. Missouri sits at the intersection of multiple climate systems, and that is not a good thing. Cold air from Canada collides with warm Gulf moisture directly over Missouri. The result? Extreme flooding, punishing heat waves, ice storms, and one of the most active tornado corridors in America. Missouri is not protected by mountains or moderated by oceans. It takes the full force of whatever the atmosphere decides to throw at it. Climate change is not a future threat here. It is an amplifier of patterns that were already dangerous. People often think the civil rights movement's iconic moments happened in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. Missouri barely appears in the highlight reel. But St. Louis and Kansas City were battlegrounds for housing discrimination, employment segregation, school integration fights, and labor movements that helped shape national policy. The 1917 East St. Louis race. Massacre. Killed hundreds. Shelley versus Kramer. The Supreme Court case that struck down racially restrictive housing covenants originated in St. Louis. Change in Missouri was quieter than in the Deep South, but it was deeply contested and historically significant. 15. Rural Missouri is empty. Drive through rural Missouri and you will see open land, sparse towns, and long stretches of nothing. But empty is a perception, not a reality. Rural does not mean abandoned. It means undercounted. Small communities still exist, still function, still hold histories and identities that do not show up on population maps. The emptiness people see is often just invisibility. These are people and places that exist outside the metrics used to measure relevance. Missouri has no military significance. That is a common claim because the state does not host famous bases or show up in war movies. On the surface, it can seem disconnected from military history. In reality, Missouri hosted critical training grounds, served as a supply route hub during multiple wars, and housed weapons manufacturing that armed American forces across the 20th century. Fort Leonard Wood trained hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Manufacturing plants in St. Louis and Kansas City produced everything from aircraft to ammunition. Invisible importance still counts, even when it does not make the memorial wall. 13. Missouri never had gold or wealth. Missouri was never a gold rush destination. It does not have oil fields or diamond mines, but wealth passed through Missouri in staggering quantities during westward expansion. Trade goods, livestock, supplies, and capital flowed through St. Louis and Kansas City on their way somewhere else. Missouri was the gate, not the destination, and gates do not keep what passes through them. That is why Missouri looks poorer than its history suggests it should. The wealth was real, it just did not stay. 12. Missouri was named randomly. State names often feel arbitrary, labels assigned by colonizers with little thought. Missouri is different. The name comes from an indigenous word meaning people with dugout canoes, a reference to the Missouri tribe who lived along the river. Even the name carries geography and hydrology, and it is a reminder that this land had meaning before it had statehood. Missouri is just a flyover state. Flyover state is one of the laziest insults in American geography. It reduces entire regions to obstacles between coasts, but the phrase reveals more about the people using it than the states they are dismissing. Missouri gets flown over because people do not look down. And what exists below, history, complexity, and contradiction, does not fit neatly into coastal assumptions about what matters. Flyover state? Sure, but that says more about altitude than relevance. 10. Missouri lacks identity. Missouri seems confused, not quite Southern, not quite Midwestern, not quite anything. But the confusion is external, not internal. Missouri has too many identities layered on top of each other: indigenous, colonial, immigrant, industrial, agricultural, urban, rural. They do not blend into one neat story. That complexity makes people uncomfortable. They want states to be simple. Missouri refuses. 9. The Civil War ended Missouri's divisions. The war ended. The divisions didn't. Post-war Missouri saw continued violence, political suppression, and social fractures that shaped communities for generations. Confederate sympathizers didn't disappear. They adapted. Union loyalists didn't forgive. They remembered. The wounds went underground, surfacing in local politics, family feuds, and regional tensions that echo faintly even today. Wars end on paper. Divisions end when people forget, and Missouri has a long memory. Missouri cities do not matter nationally. St. Louis and Kansas City are not New York or Los Angeles. They do not dominate headlines or set cultural trends, but they shaped American music. Jazz, blues, and ragtime have roots in Missouri. They served as migration hubs connecting the South to the North and the East to the West. Trade routes that built the American economy passed through Missouri cities. Influence does not always trend on social media. Sometimes it just lays the foundation everyone else builds on. 7. Missouri has no deep corruption history. Every state has corruption. Missouri just learned how to hide it politely. Political machines, backroom deals, and institutional rot have shaped Missouri governance at every level. The difference is not the presence of corruption. It is the sophistication of its concealment. Missouri's corruption is not louder than other states. It is just quieter. 6. The Ozarks were always poor. The Ozarks look poor now, but they weren't always. The region was stripped as timber extraction, mining, and agricultural exploitation pulled wealth out of the Ozarks and shipped it elsewhere. What remains is the aftermath of extraction, not the evidence of original poverty. The Ozarks weren't born empty. They were emptied. States do not stop evolving. Demographics shift. Industries rise and collapse. Climate patterns intensify. Political alignments fracture and reform. Missouri's current identity is not permanent. It is a snapshot. What Missouri becomes next depends on forces already in motion that most people have not noticed yet. Number 4. Missouri has no dark secrets left. Every place has layers. Every history has chapters that did not make the official record. Missouri's dark secrets are not exhausted. They are just waiting for someone to dig deeper. Unmarked graves, forgotten atrocities, deals that shaped cities and destroyed communities. There are always more secrets. Always. 3. You know Missouri already. You think you do. You've driven through, maybe stopped for gas, heard the jokes, made assumptions based on political maps and late-night monologues. But knowing about Missouri isn't the same as knowing Missouri. The state does not reveal itself to people who do not look carefully, and most people never look carefully. These myths are harmless. Myths shape perception. Perception shapes policy. Policy shapes lives. When people dismiss Missouri as empty, forgettable, or irrelevant, they dismiss the people who live there. Funding decisions, media coverage, and political attention all follow from perception. These myths aren't harmless trivia. They erase people and justify neglect. Words have weight, even when they're jokes. 1. Missouri is exactly what you think it is. This is the biggest lie of all. Missouri isn't flat. It isn't empty. It isn't simple. It isn't forgettable. It's layered, contradictory, complex, and stubbornly resistant to easy understanding. Whatever you thought Missouri was before this video, question it. Because Missouri has been waiting for people to look closer, and now you have. Out of all 35 myths, which one surprised you the most? Or which one do you still hear people repeat like it's fact? Drop it in the comments, and if there is a Missouri myth we missed, expose it below. We read every comment. There is another video on screen right now that breaks down another place people think they understand, but do not. Subscribe to Hard Truth Untold, because the truth does not shout. It waits for you to look close.